Bec Bignell is a multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate. She is a writer, director, producer, actor, founder of Rural Room and co-founder of Cockatoo Collab. She has worked in different sectors of media, film and television, including journalism, partnerships and digital marketing. She produced 600 bottles of wine, The 5 Minute Call, associate producer of Visible Farmer and Blueback. Bec wrote, produced and performed in her... I made this
so
really...
wordy. I'm so sorry. It's even like saying rural room. When people say that, they're like, like it's such a tongue twister.
There's a lot of R's in
You're
it.
doing such a good job. You can just say Bec does shit.
She does all the things.
She does some things.
Bec wrote, produced and performed in her scripted 7-part short-form series HomeSpun. Worked at the ABC. She is currently exec producing Curse of a Virgin, which was written by our mutual friend Danielle. And this is just to name a few. She was also named the 100 Women of Influence in the Australian Financial Review for her innovative approach to storytelling and her inclusion of regional... Now I'm getting my R's funny.
Tongue twisters.
Bec was also named the 100 Women of Influence in the Australian Financial Review for her innovative approach to storytelling and her inclusion of regional stories. Hi, Bec. Welcome to the show.
There is nothing more awkward than hearing your bio read out while you sit there nodding. You did such a good job. But yes, it's a long bio, so well done.
It's exciting.
Thanks. I like the multi-passionate. That was my favourite. You said, well, I'm definitely multi-passionate.
We're going to start. What are you currently harping on about?
Oh, good question. I am currently harping on about two things.
Tell me.
Number one is preparation. To myself, I'm harping on about this to myself, not to no one. No one listens to me at home where I live. So it's just me ranting about preparation. I've decided that's my theme for 2025. So being super prepared for stuff. I feel like we're always doing so much and so many things and making so many things. And I'm like, let's just slow down the merry-go-round and focus on like a lot less and really prepare for them. So in the film context, I feel like post-production always gets undercooked and underbaked. And so I'm like really ranting about thinking about those things at the beginning. I feel like we'd look at it in such a linear way, but going back to that cyclical approach. And the second thing I'm harping on about is like being independent of all of the bullshit that exists. I think we all have this idea that there's this like invisible enemy out to get us in the industry, like when we get rejected or our dreams get crushed or whatever, and it's like we attach that to an entity that doesn't actually exist. Like we're all in it for the same reasons and just giving it our best crack, and just reminding myself of that all the time and just really trying to be indifferent to like opinions that come at you about different people and like navigate all of the competition that can sometimes happen in environments where everyone's like, what's going on? Like the current state. So remaining independent and like just really focusing on good work, good people, good stuff.
And where did that come from? Was that like a series of like for both the preparation and also this like other entity as well? Was that something that was like a few things over time, or was this like the recent, like, you know, just like 2024? Like, was that something that kind of brought that up?
That's a good question. I think, yeah, definitely it's been like I've reached a point where I've got some space for thinking of stuff and reflecting on things a bit and going, this is how I think I can improve my work and life. So I think in a lot of areas I've emerged from a time, and I think it's just natural when you're starting out, you have to do so many things and you're trying to keep so many, you know, you're spinning so many plates and balls in the air, and so you just get into that like adrenaline mode and just doing. And now I'm sort of pivoting that and trying to like really assert my thoughtfulness about the things that I'm doing and why. And like it's hard because you don't have the privilege of always being able to say no. Like it would be great to say no sometimes, and I've experienced this a lot recently, or like a lot generally, you know, like it's costly to live, and like emerging artists get crumbs at the best of times. So, you know, like it's all well and good to think that you've got that ability to say no, but a lot of people don't. And so, yeah, I think I just given myself a little bit of space to pull out, because I've had a number of things happen, and I've had to kind of reflect and recalibrate. And that's the thing that I'm focused on. I feel like it's a simple step, preparation, that can really help me change some fundamentals that will help me achieve a bit more like energy conservation for myself, and then the flow and effect that has for others around me and environment and things like that. And yeah, in terms of like retaining that independence, that's sort of been an industry long thing. I just think it's so easy to get wrapped up, especially when I feel like coming back to WA, it is quite parochial. And just reminding myself that like I work with such awesome people, both here and Australia-wide, and we're all like, we just have the greatest chats, like conversations like this, and, you know, just the things that we make together and stuff. And I think sometimes we can all talk really negatively because, you know, you get so rejected. Like you get rejected on a weekly to fortnightly basis. So if you're feeling a bit fragile, which these current times we're all feeling very fragile, it is easy to default to that like negative position of thinking, you know, this person's out to get me because I didn't get this thing, or that happened because of this. Whereas I think it's really important to always take a step back and go, there is no greater force that is trying to tear us down. There's certainly like systems and things like that you have to penetrate without question. But as a collective community of filmmakers, I feel like we're all very much for each other. And it's just constantly reminding ourselves to have independence in that respect. Like not fall into the group think of like, you know, oh, this is, you know, everyone's out to get me. Like, there's no hope for us in the stories that we've got to tell. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like kind of coming back to like that community feel of like,
Definitely.
you know, like, you know, when you go to those events or just see your friends and being like, oh, like, I've got your back. I know how hard this industry is.
Correct.
It's like those moments are just like, oh, okay, it just takes you that step like further and just keep going kind of thing.
Definitely, because it's so relentless. And I feel like in this time, so many people don't know what's going on, you know, like fragmentation of audience and like new streamers coming in, and there's like all sorts of different requirements from different broadcasters and streamers, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, the collective goodwill of the film community is to get amazing stories out there, stories that don't get enough airtime, you know, be creative, imaginative and innovative. And I think it's actually within these moments that we're in at the moment in the landscape is actually on the flip side of feeling the panic and anxiety. It's like this great time to really tap into our creativity in terms of the way that we make things, because we're pushed to this side. So I think we're going to start to see some of those really exciting creative elements in this period that we're sort of in. But it's certainly reminding that, like, you know, you're going to work with people that you don't agree with and creatives that you don't mix, you know, like you don't have that flow or whatever, like undoubtedly, like any industry. But I think our community is very strong in when it gets tricky, all coming together and going, you know, like, you're amazing, and like really supporting each other so that we don't fall into that trap of tearing each other down or, you know, that kind of environment, which I think would destroy storytelling and, you know, creativity. So, it's just reminding people about that, because it's easy, you know, like even I find for myself, it's easy. What we think we're aspiring for can get hijacked, because the film and TV industry is, at the end of the day, maybe not so much in Australia, but globally, a very commercial industry. So it's like, what is our aspiration? It's going back to your intention, because it's so easy to get distracted by award ceremonies and red carpets and all the celebrity and stuff, that's in our industry, you know, like film and TV is commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to, there are always times where you like find yourself having to rethink this stuff, because you're like, there is a cool group and there is, you know, the hot ticket in town and, you know, those things. So you just have to, it's that thing of constantly bringing yourself back to intent, because I think when you come up, like I grew up in a small regional town, like there was no visibility of filmmaking where I grew up. When you come up that way, like your intention is very much about story or creatives that comes from that sort of place, and you have to go quite, you know, like struggle to get anywhere, so that when you get something, you have to be careful not to fall into the trap of like, you know, being distracted by the bright lights or the shiny objects.
Yeah.
Because you yearn to get to a point, like it's quite tricky to get to that point. You know, you can't rely on nepotism. You know, like I didn't have that. Neither of my parents like were in the industry. So you can't rely on that. And so you have to be careful not to aspire to the things that we're taught are like the top of the tree.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's interesting because it's like, I would be interesting to actually go back on your childhood and like if there were any elements that may not be directly filmmaking, but that you found were clues to what you're doing now.
I was always like very fixated on film and TV. Like I just loved the medium. I think because we would go to Perth and watch like movies was like a big treat for us to get on the train and go to like the cinema. Was just like, oh my God. And so they had such an impact on me that I just was like, oh my God, that's definitely what I want to do. So, and growing up in the town that I grew up in, the individuals and the community and the people that I met were just fascinating. Like they've got such amazing stories and there's such incredible diversity of story and experience. And I was keenly aware that there was a lack of access to the arts just because of geographical distance. Like we couldn't participate in big plays and stuff that other kids that lived in the city could do. And I always remember thinking, God, there's such a good reservoir of story here and so many incredible creatives who look so different to what that kind of creative person is supposed to look like, you know, that stereotype. There's just an abundance of story. And I was always like, oh, it's so hard to release this because it's so far away, you know? So that kind of drove me, I guess. That was why I ended up having to leave and, you know, because there was just not the access that you've got now, living regionally.
That got you into filmmaking, wanting to talk about regional stories and amplifying that voice. Yep. So what was the first stepping stones that got you into filmmaking?
I suppose I had to go about it in quite a different way because I didn't get to go into it at an age when I would have liked to. Yep. Like I used to read in the newspaper like auditions for things that I would have loved to have done in the city back when they put casting calls in the newspaper. Just couldn't do it because we were too far away. So I just used to make a lot of my own stuff on like by myself where we lived. And I guess I just practiced story and I tried to access it wherever I could, you know, books, like I said, when we went to the city, plays and things like that. So I was always practicing story in that sense because I think that's very transferable to film. And then I went to university at Curtin University, so I had a great experience there.
Good.
That's sort of when I first really got into it in sort of like a, you know, a professional sense of getting a bit of more access to film education and some amazing performance and innovation in the upstairs theatre in Hayman, which was amazing.
Fab.
So, yeah, that was probably the entry point to me, but still just an education really. Like I did a lot of like short films on the weekend and stuff with friends from uni and things like that to sort of actually try and, you know, and as doing acting stuff as well. So when trying doing commercials and things like that, I had an agent by that stage. It's just getting on set where I could, but still fairly limited because at that time when I graduated uni, it was very much like mining and there was like children's TV series, but I was either too old to be a kid and too young to be like an adult. So I didn't really tick the box for anything. So went over to Sydney.
Nice. And if we go just on when you went to Sydney, so is that when you got the ABC job?
Correct. Yeah. So when I went to Sydney, I had to start from the bottom because none of my experience was really transferable getting there.
Yep.
So I ended up going back to retail and just trying to get like any gig that I could on the outskirts of that.
And was that more acting wise?
Yeah, that was definitely acting. So that's probably my first love, just like really character acting as well, and comedy and things like that. So, yes, but I actually had not a great experience in a theatre and education show that I was doing.
Oh, is that the one like travels around the country?
Yeah, travels. Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit more about that, or is it one of those ones?
It's a bit traumatic. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no.
It kind of made me need to leave acting for a bit. I was just like,
That's interesting because I've had a similar situation where you kind of get pushed too far in a sense, and then you're kind of like, I need to actually not do this for a while and like pivot in another way.
Correct.
But then as an actor, you like, I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like I had no idea about any other like I didn't really know what a director did. Like, I know they were like, behind the camera doing their thing. I didn't really know what a producer did, but they were just like, flapping about, all that kind of thing. But then when you actually get behind the camera, you're like, wait, this is so much better. For me anyway, I was just like, wow, like going from pre-development to post. So what was that journey like with you? Like now, obviously having that horrific experience there.
Yes.
Was that kind of like a pivot?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
You're so right. It was a case of like I just needed a break from it. Like, so I ended up in a job that was quite different. Like, it was a lot more producing related. I could still go and audition and stuff like that if I wanted to for film and TV stuff, but I needed a break from the theatre side of things for a bit. And so when I got into that world, it was a really nice break for my brain to just focus on some of the more like logical components as well, like looking at things from a different point of view, like you're saying. And then I just started to get really excited about bringing that creativity to those different components. And I think I'd lost so much confidence from this experience that it was also instrumental in building back up that creative confidence and that sort of, I never lost the fire. It was definitely still burning, but I was just feeling super vulnerable and a bit confused and stuff. So yes, I got really excited, like you're saying, about the potential in these other areas. And exactly like you're saying, because I'd been so focused on performance, I hadn't really, even though like you do self-devised theatre and stuff, so you're already naturally sort of playing in those spaces anyway, but you don't know the official title or the activities attributed to those different roles necessarily, and so then when I went, I'm really lucky. It's that thing where a thing that was quite bad ended up being like a really great curveball for my career, because I spent a lot of time doing budgets and contracts and things I would never have imagined doing, because I'm really bad with numbers, but I had to develop that discipline because this job required it, and it just became the thing that really helped me the most in my career, I suppose.
And what was the first, so you're saying budgeting and scheduling and stuff like that?
Contracting and stuff.
So the kind of like, so producing was kind of the next step in a way?
Yeah, exactly. It was, because I'd built up that part of my brain out of a necessity for the job that I was doing. And so then I could kind of merge, because I got some really good experience in that. And then I could merge storytelling as well. And that's when, like, I was in ABC kind of doing these things together. And then in my mind, I sort of thought, okay, I've developed up my sort of creative confidence again. Now I want to see if I can generate some things for myself, because I've given myself this independence, to the other thing I was able to learn, which has been really beneficial, is kind of financing. So like alternative ways to finance as well as the traditional ways. And I was like, this is awesome, because now I can actually, generate work that I'm interested in.
What was like the first like producing gig that you kind of did?
My really good friend Grace, who I had met in acting class, we did Sydney Actors Collective, which was started by a friend Chum, who's from WA, who
Amazing.
is an amazing actor and teacher and director and stuff as well. So we'd met through that, and she had written a short form series on the back of a really successful blog that she had written about sort of like the recovery that you go through when you break up with someone, and really with a focus on friendship and, you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, she came to me and said, would I produce it for her? And then another one of our good mates, Ainsley Clouston, she was directing it. So it was like the three of us, and it was awesome. So we just had such good rapport because we'd done classes for so many years together, and we all had different kind of backgrounds. So Grace had a really strong background in post-production. Ainsley had a really strong background in writing. And then I had a background in producing and sort of audience and some other elements that were interesting, funding and stuff. And so we combined forces, and it was that first kind of project that you do where you learn all the things and you take all the risks and you do it together. And it was really successful. So we all, you know, put in heaps of effort, and I guess we cut our teeth on it because there were a lot of mistakes we could make because no one knew or cared about us. Like, that allowed us to kind of do some cool things, you know, get away with some stuff that you probably couldn't do now. And so we had a ball, and so we got that out. That was called 600 Bottles of Wine.
Yeah.
And that premiered on the BBC, which was very exciting.
BBC Three, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Like, as your first gig as well, it's just like, oh, okay, I've got some feet in this kind of thing. And do you feel like that, off the back of that success, financing, you found all that from like your stuff at Curtin University, your job at ABC, so all of these combined, then having Grace and what was the other person? Ainsley. And that was able to just like make this thing, and it just turned out into what it did.
Yeah, like I think it was just, we had lots of energy. We didn't really have any restrictions, like major restrictions like we do now in terms of time and things like that. And so we just went all in, experimented with stuff. We were also in like quite a lucky time where I think timing obviously plays a lot into these things, but where people were quite interested in web series, like in those sort of earlier days of it. So there was a lot of interest, and we worked really hard to make it authentic. Like, it's a simple world in so much as it's friends who drink wine together to recover from like a breakup. So we're not moving mountains, but we knew the world, like, and we wanted to create a really relatable world for a very specific audience. So we weren't trying to, you know, tap into, you know, everyone and everything. We were just trying to do that in a way that was meaningful to us and that we enjoyed, you know, and that we thought that would convey to the audience, which it did because we were, you know, authentic about it, the experience of it, and uncensored with a lot of stuff. And it was still kind of, I guess, in that early time in regard to that sort of like at the beginning of the Me Too movement. So people were really starting to get interested in what women were thinking and how they were expressing themselves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we sort of, I guess, rode off the back of that to an extent too. I do think that, like, personally for me, because we had that, like, pretty much immediate validation, I think that's the thing of also, like, it wasn't really immediate because we were at the end of our 20s, but in so much as the first thing that we'd made together, you know, solo, it was good validation to be like, okay, cool, we've got something and we've done it, and we did put a lot of work into it. But I do think that, you know, I'm always reminded that, like, you just got to keep working. Like, the validation, like in that sense, validation was getting it onto BBC Three was great. You know, that was, we sort of wanted to get it to a big audience, so that ticked a box. But every different project for me is a different objective or intention that I've got.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
So sometimes you can, like, get caught up, like I was saying, in, you got to be careful where you benchmark, because you're not always going to get, like, the intention's going to end up in different ways, you know. So it's not always going to be necessarily that you're going to get a great broadcast deal, or every project sort of has a different intention. So I think that's been an interesting thing to learn as well after that, you know, having that initial kind of quick tick the box of it. In some ways then you go backwards with other things, you know.
That's cool. And would you say the intention for this one was learning the mechanics of filmmaking?
Definitely. Yep. In a way that was really 100%, like in a way that was really honest to what we were trying to create too. So we did a really good kind of innovative deal with the post-production house that Grace was working at. So we didn't want to spare any expense with the quality of what we created as well, because we wanted to go through that process really vigorously in terms of like the edit and the grade and sound. Like we all wanted to really immerse in that for, you know, the future of our projects and stuff. But I think it's that thing where like filmmakers look at each other, and I guess that goes back to my earlier point of like what success, the metric of success is always different. And it's really easy to, like other projects that I've done, my metric hasn't been broadcast or it hasn't been awards. Like, you know, like people might go for awards because they want a calling card for their career to get to the next step or whatever. But I think it's always very intentional, and you just have to be so careful not to get swept up in those kind of things, the vanity metrics, as people say, because projects mean different things and resolve different things each time.
You've finished 600 bottles of wine. It's gone to BBC Three. What are you doing in that time? So obviously you've done all the distribution, that kind of thing. Are you working? Like, are you like writing? Like what's the period in this time?
Oh my gosh, it's exhausting even thinking about it. Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. We were all doing everything. So we were like...
Because what was the time span? So from development to...
I reckon we did... I think Grace asked me maybe in like 2017... And then we got it into the world, I think, in maybe 2019 or end of 2018.
Wow, so actually it's quite a quick turnaround, really.
Maybe it was longer than that. I'm so tired, I can't remember. No, but
well, because she brought you the script as well, so she would have been she would have been developing that for however long, kind of thing. So yeah, okay, cool.
I reckon it was probably like all said and done 3 years, but it felt like 300 because we were learning so much on the job. But it was we were all working other jobs, you know, doing acting gigs, writing, like beg, borrowing and stealing to just pay our rent, you know, as everyone relates.
Because you're still in Sydney at this time, correct?
Still in Sydney, yep. And working on other projects and things like that. So it was just working around the clock kind of thing. I reckon I'm having a come down now from all of the like first part of my career.
Yeah, because I always find like this is the hardest thing to kind of navigate, because I don't know, because like I also work on different time zones as well.
Yeah.
So it's that whole thing of like, you know, you can talk to the US in the morning, you have Australia during the day, and then you have the UK in the evening, and it's just like this constant cycle. So do you have any like rituals or practices that you do to like help with that, or is that kind of like, you know, along the preparation and the other entity that you're kind of working through this year?
Yes, you are so smart to draw that link, because that is exactly right. The preparation, mind, thought and everything has become, because it's become essential for me. So I did not have the brainwave to, you know, do it because I thought it would be a good idea, and I'm like proactive. It's literally because I got quite sick last year. And I had to reassess where I was directing my energy, because like you say, that's the tricky thing about being in WA. A note to anyone that's listening that lives outside of WA, can you please remember that 8 o'clock AST time, or whatever it is, Australian Eastern Standard Times, is 5 o'clock our time.
Yeah, it's very early for us.
It's very early. And so, yes, I just found that I was working all around the clock. And then, like, the thing that enabled us, which is, you know, remote technology and Zoom and things like that, actually was the thing that, like, also made me just push too far, because I'm like, by my nature, I'm a people pleaser, so I'm trying to reform myself over that. Again, out of necessity, not because I had some wild idea, which sadly, no, I just was forced into it. But yes, I really was like, I can't keep working like this because I was breastfeeding. I've got 2 kids under 4 and just finished feeding one last year in August. And so what I would do is I would like do a night feed, stay at working, then do like a midnight feed. And then I was just like burning myself out because I could work when I wanted to work, outside of when I wasn't focused on the kids. So I was just trying to do everything all at once and my body couldn't handle it. And so I then had to pause and think, okay, how am I going to manage this better? And like you said, I try and plan, in advance and, be thoughtful about what I'm doing because otherwise I could see myself heading for a major burnout. Yeah.
No, and I really feel that because like during so when do your kids kind of come into this? So it's 2029 is when kind of the BBC, like that distribution was happening?
Yeah, that was 2019. So then
yeah.
I came back doing Blue back in 2021 and then stayed because a bit of an accident in terms of I was pregnant. That wasn't the accident. The accident was that we just kind of like the borders were going to close. So my husband
because this is all during like kind of COVID, but like also I know Perth was a little bit delayed and like some other border stuff was like, it was closed for ages.
Wild.
So
yeah, exactly. So my husband came in, we stayed here, and then the borders kept opening, closing. We had a newborn, so we were just like, we'll just stay put.
Yeah.
And then just ended up staying because time passed and here we are. And so then I had another baby in 2023, so sort of back to back. It's been an interesting ride managing both of those two things alongside. I haven't actually really stopped working at any point during that, so I have been learning a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Because you find, because I like hear it like either one of two things, like either like mums just can't like manage it in a way, or it's like they've just been really time efficient and they're like, well, I've got 2 hours to write this thing, like I just have to do it now kind of thing. Have you found that, or how have you navigated that?
Yeah, both of those things. I think I just feel like I'm slower across the board to arrive to things just because I'm super tired or just my brain is sort of quite split, thinking about all different manner of different things. So that's again why I've had to like pull back because I'm not able to focus on multiple things like I did before just because I'm directing that energy to different focuses. I do have I definitely feel like I'm more productive because it's not just that I'm not working during mainstream hours because it is great because I can just stockpile emails and go, knock them all over.
Yeah.
But it's also because I am just being more efficient and also probably not doing as much. I'm an extremely details-oriented person and I can get really, really stuck in detail, which is the thing I love when I'm creating worlds for film and TV or characters and story. But I've also had to pull myself out of it and also not perfectionism, which is, I've also been inclined to sort of be perfectionistic and I've just had to give that up and just be like, sometimes near enough is good enough because it's all I've got the capacity for.
Yeah.
And because I really have made an active decision. My kids are at the age where it's just extremely joyful. They are so wonderful to watch, what it was like being a child, and especially for creativity, their imaginations and the play and all of that sort of stuff is just great. And so I'm really tapped back into it because it's kind of reminding me about all the stuff that I've stamped out of myself, through all the events that we lived through our lives and the conditioning and everything that's happened to us. And I'm going back into this place of just joy and, nature and all these things and you go, oh my God, creativity is everywhere, you know, and the inspiration that I'm getting from just being down on their level and available for that is awesome.
It is that kind of balance of I'm not a mum, but I can imagine you want to be there for those moments because even my mum says she's I can't believe you're here now kind of thing. Yes. And it's just it blinks up blink and you just kind of, exactly.
And I'm 100% have no idea what I'm doing as a parent. Like, I am not one of those people that pretends to know anything about parenting. I definitely don't aspire to be a perfect parent, because I just am like going by instinct and doing a bit of reading.
But I feel like that's like could be like everything in life as well. Like literally no one has idea what anything they're doing. Like the more I do this industry, I'm like, oh, like obviously you get more seasoned and all that kind of thing. But I'm like, literally everyone's just like trial and error kind of thing.
You fully forget that, don't you? Because it is that thing, like sometimes, because I'm always seem to be stuck in like low budget land, which is so hard when you're talking to people who are like, you know, everyone's working hard for less, and I'm always like, oh, it's just so hard because we're in, you know, web series land or short form land or whatever. And then people are like, no, it's still this, it's still the exact same when it's much bigger. And then when I'm on bigger productions or bigger shoots, I'm like, oh yeah, it is, it's the same problems, but they're just bigger and it's the same complexities. So you're definitely right. And I 100%, I think that's the same with parenting. And it's nice as well just to take the pressure off myself. You know, I think that's one thing that I've just had to do because I cannot do everything the way that I was. So I've really enjoyed just remembering that I am a hot mess and just trying my best wherever I can, you know, and giving it a red hot crack. And knowing that there will come a time again in the future where I can, you know, where I've got more time and more focus and more energy, and I'm like just given over to that now. I'm not sort of like I still have days where I'm like, oh God, I would so love to do that. When you see someone doing something on social media or something, I definitely still feel that from time to time, but I've taken a lot of the pressure off myself.
Someone told me the other day of like, because I'm quite similar in the way I want everything to be a 10 out of 10. If it's not a 10 out of 10, like it's a 0 out of 10. But I've realized like actually doing a 7 out of 10 can be really beneficial, because at that time, in that moment, for me, is a 10 out of 10, that's 7 out of 10. Yes. And it's really just like understanding, being like, that's all I can give. That's my 100% that day.
Yes.
And I don't know, like it's like giving yourself grace for that. And that's definitely something that I'm still learning. So I totally agree with you on that.
I concur. And I think the thing as filmmakers, we are so critical of other work, and like obviously there's a thing where you've got reviewers, so we're used to that and to feedback and everything, but we forget that like budgets are so like arbitrary. You know, some people get like millions and then people just expect, you know, that you go and watch a student film and it's going to have the same level of like, you know, experience as like a multi-million-dollar blockbuster or something like that. And I feel like everyone's so judgy about, oh, you know, this wasn't perfect, that wasn't perfect. Like, it's like, yeah, not everyone has like 3 months or like 6 months or a year. Like some people are trying to just make stuff out of a garage and like also like experiment with stuff. Like that was one thing I was really big on with HomeSpun. I was like, I really want to try difference in terms of like the actual arc and the trajectory. Like I want to make something that doesn't, which will feel abrasive to an audience that's used to the payoff and the, you know, those sort of traditional experiences. But I was like, we need to experiment in this stuff. Like that's 100%. Again where that creativity needs to come back into storytelling. Like there are so many different ways of telling stories from, you know, and there are so many different cultures that tell stories in different ways, and yet we always insist on this kind of like Disney version of like, you know, that real linear sort of approach. No, I think we need to allow for experimentation in it, also in mainstream stuff, you know, not just in the indie sort of web series and things. Like there needs to be more of that on those sort of more traditional platforms. So just to like, anything that's good started off as an experiment, you know, and I think sometimes it can get a bit sanitized. So you have to be vulnerable, knowing people are probably going to hate it if it's not what they expect of the experience, you know, because it feels weird or uncomfortable. And then you have to get used to knowing that you're going to get that feedback, but knowing that, again, your intentions being different, like you've wanted to take that risk also to become better, to learn what works and what doesn't.
Definitely.
Like sitting with an audience for me, I think is so important. Like I love taking films on festivals like, you know, Cinefest or like I went to one the Winton Film Festival in outback Queensland, which was amazing. And just sitting alongside people that are watching the work and getting their feedback firsthand as they watch or feeling the vibe, I think is so important. Like, and we got to take the pressure of ourselves to be making something that's like, you know, supposedly the same realm as those big blockbusters or anything that's got like a massive budget, because it's not going to be perfect when you don't have that money. Like, you're going to have mum running the coffees, and you're going to have your friend who's the nurse, or like, you know, like you're having to do whatever you can to make it work. So it is, you're not going to have as long as you'd like in an edit suite and stuff. So there'll be little natural holes or whatever, but not to like be despondent about that, because the idea is just to keep making, keep learning
100%
to get better.
Definitely. Yeah, because I find like I've definitely like made a mantra for myself where like it's better for people to love and hate it, because if they sit in the middle, it's like you haven't done your job kind of thing.
Vanilla.
And it's like, I love that thing of like experimentation. I think that's actually really important, because, you know, like especially with film, like, you know, say for instance Joker, like the musical version, it was such a divided thing. But the thing that I love the most, I'm like, yeah, but he went against everyone, what he was saying, and just experimented with what he did. Yeah, it had this massive controversy around it of it not being, you know, as well as they wanted it to be. But
yes,
I just love that he experimented. I give him like clicks for that. Like, I just loved that.
Oh, definitely. I think it's this weird thing where it's like the artist or the filmmaker should not be making stuff or not always be making stuff for the audience to like or feel good. Like, actually, a lot of the stuff that we should be making should make the audience feel uncomfortable or should make them think. And that's the thing with each project intention being different. Like, sometimes you might want to make something where they're just walking in, having a laugh, you know, and leaving, or then you're making something that will, like you say, knowingly make the audience not like it. And leaning into that. Like, that's what our work is to do. Like, oh my God, imagine how boring to have everyone just constantly being like, I love it. Like, I know that's definitely not going to be the case for me. But, I just don't think that that's what the job of the filmmaker is, or the artist. And I think, it's, again, that just trying to not be the bee to the honey of, no, that's the wrong analogy. Going to the light of like validation. You know?
100%. Because tying that back into HomeSpun, how did you approach that arc? Because it was something that you wanted to experiment with. Because it was a 7-part mini series, but when I watched it, it was a movie. So what was that journey with that kind of thing?
Yes. Well, I think it's this thing where now a lot of the web series, when they're acquired for like a playback service or whatever, are wanting the longer form stitched together.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I think it's because, like I said before, there was this idea that the web series was like a format in its own right, you know? And I think it was like when 600 came out, but it was before TikTok vertical video and stuff. And so there was a really good place for it. Like, and we actually did some, you know, we looked into it and we suggested when it was being distributed that it could be a good thing to watch on the way home on the tube or like on public transport or something. This is pre-COVID, when that was like a big part of your daily ritual, you know. And it worked really well. Like, people would, it was the right amount of time. You could watch it and then feel like going and like hanging out with your mates. You know, that was the kind of vibe that it generated. But then I think like COVID happened, and then I think vertical video took off. And it sort of changed the appetite for web series. Like, I think audiences almost find the episodes too short for landscape, but too long for vertical. So it's in this awkward space where I think for like, and I'm only taking this on the fact that like platforms and, you know, people that are quiet tend to want the longer form version, you know, where they're all stitched together, because that's in line with the audience behaviour of sitting down, watching it for an hour, as opposed to, I don't think the way web series are made and stuff, unless you've got like a YouTuber with like a huge existing audience and big footprint that has a big fan following, if you're just making it like with no kind of fan base or whatever, no influence, it's really hard to get audiences to return like for the next episode or whatever if you're releasing it over a like not in the kind of binge fashion.
Yeah.
The exception to that rule, and this is where I think it's really interesting, is communities, when you're tapping into a like really strong existing community of people. So we did Visible Farmer, the web series, and that was, we had no existing audience for that show, but there was an incredible audience strategy that was created through digital. And again, this was sort of before a lot of the changes that has happened on digital, but it was such a strong impact strategy that was also created in partnership with Documentary Australia. Screen Australia supported it, and my wonderful, wonderful friends who made it, Gisela and Karsten, really led the charge in terms of the strategy that they developed. They were able to build a huge and highly engaged following from scratch because of the supplementary content that they put out, the strategy of when they released it, and they were tapping into this really lively and like it wasn't invisible community, but they knew that it was there because it was like women who weren't really recognised in agriculture. And so they really did an amazing job of doing it without a big existing audience base because they had this exceptional audience strategy that was very much based on impact and community. But it was a lot of work. And I think those things now are even more work because of the algorithm and stuff. So again, it's almost like, where do those communities exist, and working with people within those communities, can be a really good option, which people should be looking into, like online communities across all manner of things would be really good for web series, because they're interested in the content and they're arriving to it with an expectation, So I think that's a good place for web series. But if you're not thoughtful about that, or you don't have anything meaningful, or you're not from that community, I think it's a bit of a slog. Like, it's a good opportunity to cut your teeth and learn, but will you get people to watch it? I don't know. It's not as easy to distribute it, to self-distribute it, as it used to be.
Talking about series, so you're doing Curses of a Virgin, which you're exec producing.
Yes.
And it's with our mutual friend Danielle.
Yes.
Who has just won an actor award, which is very exciting. And she introduced us, which was amazing.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. So obviously it's not a web series necessarily, but it has it's a short series. Can you just explain?
Short form.
Yeah.
Same thing, like Danny is amazing, and we met years ago through a workshop, and she and I just kept in contact, and she is just one of those people that will just go so far because she's talented but also really smart and just incredible. And so she'd been developing Curse the Virgin, and she knew about some of the stuff I'd been doing within sort of this impact kind of audience space, and was really interested in it for Curse the Virgin. And so we sort of started looking at that early on. And I suppose it's that thing as well where people forget like how important community is to creating the world. It's like I do some work working with productions when they go into the regions and making sure that the community is properly engaged, and that it's not like, I feel like filmmakers can be a little bit entitled sometimes. It's like, you can't just go into your mum and dad's house and like throw your shoes off and like start pouring cereal or whatever. I mean, you can, but it's rude and disrespectful. So it's about kind of trying to create, build good respect on the ground. But the byproduct of it, it's not only respectful, the reciprocal kind of benefit for filmmakers and production teams is the community have so much to offer in the way of like authenticity for the world that's being created there. And I think people get confused. They think like, oh no, don't engage with the audience in a way that they can influence the art or the story. And that's not what good community engagement is. It's actually just about listening, and also like it's like good research, because especially like we can't know everything about everyone and all the worlds that we're building or creating, or we've got the privilege of being involved in, you know, like in whatever role we're working on. So when you're actually listening to community and like respecting them in whatever context that is, you're actually learning more about the world that you're creating and tiny details. And again, that's where my interest lies in, because the audience loves that stuff. You know, it's like any experience that you look at that you truly love from a film point of view, it's often because they really understand those details. And I think there's just, people don't realize the value that we can get from that, from listening to communities, is like, it's such an education through symbolism and all of those sorts of things, like to actually just listen, you know, to sit down, and when you're creating stuff, is really let those people inform and provide information that can be really beneficial. So that's what Dani's sort of interested in within her world as well, and she's done some amazing work within that, and she captures it really well in all of the work that she does because it's authentic. And again, that's where that intention differs from. But then funnily enough, you see how the byproduct is that she wins an amazing award because she's paid so much attention and because for her it's meaningful, you know. So it is the cream that always rises to the top in that respect, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, and I love that, because when you were saying that about how the impact of the audience and how that can inform like your script and all that kind of thing, it reminded me how, like, in a business, like, you know, they put out a test product and they're like, you know, gauging what the audience are doing with that and seeing how they're like, you know, do they like it? What parts, like, you know, is the material great? All that kind of thing. It's just, I feel like we forget that in film, just being like, they can be a part of the process as well. So I love that you're working in that way for this, for Curse of a Virgin, because it sounds like such an amazing project.
Absolutely. And I think it's also that thing like with audience as well, in terms of when you're trying to inform audiences that might be really, you know, set in their ways about a particular thing, and it can be really hard to shift their outlook because of ideology. Story is a really great function to remind people without them feeling like projected at, because they're lost in the story. And so sometimes applying that rigor to audience research is great if the intention is this audience really needs to evolve the way they're thinking about this, you know. And that again goes to what I was saying about the audience intention isn't always to be liked, you know. Sometimes it's to embed something within a story that they're going to have to go away and think about, and hopefully that's going to prompt them to change the way, like a behaviour or the way that they think about things that isn't inclusive or something like that. So it's often understanding the audience to know how to affect them as well. So there's that delineation between, I think, again, sometimes people just think like there is the opportunity to glean really interesting insights, particularly for discoverability in terms of distribution. Like, where is this audience? Why is this interesting to them? How are they going to access it? You know, those sorts of things are super, and you see all the best, like at the top level, when they've got heaps of marketing funds and stuff like that, they're looking at those things. You can see they're kind of applying that lens to it because it's become so much harder to distribute and market films now with just all of the fragmentation that we're talking about. So they're looking at that, and you can do that on a granular level, especially as independent, you know, filmmakers, and that definitely comes from that impact audience strategy that documentary employs. It's actually still relevant, very relevant for fiction and scripted material as well. And you're right, like sometimes I think filmmakers, we think that we're bigger than the audience.
Yeah, so that's one that's gone.
One down.
Wait, let's check.
Go for it.
Oh, so that's going.
Awesome.
This is going. Lovely. Cool. All right.
That's good multitasking.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yes, but it's just that thing, I think, where audience are, like, definitely we can't think that we're bigger than them. Like, it's not that, like, there's always that debate of like, oh, we shouldn't let the audience influence us. But I still think there's things that we can learn from them. And it's not saying that they're going to influence the art itself. It's the fact that we should respect them. And especially in this day and age where it is costly to go to the cinemas or, you know, there is so much that people could be watching. I am like so grateful when people buy a ticket to the things that I've done or, you know, share or watch. Like it's, you know, you should show that gratitude to them because they're a part of they're a part of it.
Yeah, 100%. So you got Curses of a Virgin, working on that with Danny. Is there anything else in the mix that you're working on? Like what's to go with that?
Yeah, so we've got another web series that we actually filmed in COVID called 5 Minute Call, which was written by Simon Burke and Helen Dallimore, who are really well-known theatre actors.
Amazing.
And that we've made in partnership with Arena Media. So
Cool.
It's been a lot of fun. Ainsley is directing it. So again, it's that thing where you like track through. I feel like that's another thing, like when you've got good rhythm with people that you work with early on, you tend to kind of keep those because it can be like a very, you know, unique thing to find people that you just work well with. And Ainsley and I both really love to, like, we will fixate on detail, you know, we both really like obsessive about that. And so I love that. I don't like working with people who walk away when it's not like fully cooked, you know, it drives me crazy. Like I'd rather work with really eccentric people that will see it through to the end and give 100% than people that like dip their toe in but are like, you know, easy to work with in inverted commas. And Robert Patterson, who I work with on that too, he's amazing and he has been such a huge supporter of stuff. I worked with him at the ABC as well and love working with him. So we've created that. That will come out this year.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, so that's
amazing.
fun. And then, there's a couple of other things that are in development. I've been working on working with Chanel Bowen, who's an amazing West Australian filmmaker on Harders Park. So she's producing that and it's an amazing doco that's going to come out next year. So she's in production at the moment with that.
Cool.
And another sort of documentary concept that's in development about a group of really inspiring people in the Southern Forest region of WA. And then I have just started developing a feature of my own, which I have been like, you know, wanting to do for a while, and I'd sort of been writing for 2 years in terms of just like marinating in it. Yeah. And this year I'm going to complete it. So, yeah.
Can you give us a little premise, or is it kind of those things that's under wraps, or?
It's a bit under wraps because there's like a few things that we're doing that are like that have made it a little bit secret squirrel. But I will give you an update by the end of the year.
Fabulous.
I'll give you an update.
I'm excited. Love it. And so you're working on those. So this year it's preparation, removing that entity, and then working on the feature film while focusing being a mum as well.
Absolutely. And then trying to like still have to bring in money because the cost of living is insane. And yes, so it is just that constant struggle in terms of figuring out like where to bring the money in. And like you just always have that battle. Do I go back in and do full-time work again? I definitely don't know the answers. And I honestly think it's pretty much been week to week in terms of like where my head's at around the best way forward. I'm definitely focused more on directing. I feel like I've been doing so much remote directing over the past few years because that's what's worked well, being, you know, pretty much needing to remain at home because of my kids. And that's definitely where my passion lies, directing, writing. And then the producing is really just the mechanism that I employ to get stuff up, you know, and I do enjoy it, but there's a lot that I don't enjoy because it's not my strength, you know. There's people that are just a lot better at that than me. So yeah, directing. So there's also a short film that I wrote with a really good friend who I went to school with, who is also an actress and also a mum, and we're going to be shooting that in July.
Oh, amazing.
And that's an absurdist comedy, which is really fun.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
And what role are you in that one?
Director. We wrote
Amazing.
it together and then directing it. So she's acting in it.
Oh, fab.
So yeah.
Oh, that's
gonna
so
be fun.
cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we've loved having you. So definitely come back again when you have more things coming out.
I will, definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Bec.
it.